Welcome back to the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. I'm your host, Justin Soderberg. Once again, this episode is brought to you by our friends over at Galactic Comics and Collectibles at galacticcomicsandcollectibles.com. This episode, we welcome Tyler Boss to the podcast. Tyler is the artist of such books such as What's the Furthest Place From Here, Four Kids Walk Into a Bank, Dead Dog's Bite, and many more variant covers and other comics. Boss recently released a debut issue of his new comic, You'll Do Bad Things, where he serves as the writer on the series. This episode, we chatted You'll Do Bad Things, What's the Furthest Place From Here, writing versus illustrating, and so much more. So check this episode out with Tyler Boss. But before you do, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads, all those places. You can rate, review, subscribe, and all that stuff over on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find your podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. And as always, you can visit capesandtights.com for so much more. This is Tyler Boss chatting You'll Do Bad Things right here on the Capes and Tights podcast. Enjoy, everyone. Welcome to the podcast, Tyler. How are you today?
I'm good, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you for working around our crazy schedules to make this work. I know you've been traveling and doing some touring with You'll Do Bad Things. How's that been going?
It was good. Me and Matt just finished day 31 2 days ago. And so I made it home in the intended way. Matt, he was supposed to have a nice direct flight, and instead he got to spend some time in Detroit. So, but he's home. He's home now too. And yeah, no, it was good.
And in risk of alienating Detroit listeners, Detroit's not seems like a place I would like lay over in right at this moment in time. Maybe somewhere sunny or something like that, somewhere nice. But yeah, I guess it's the end of the winter, so it's not that bad. But yeah,
for sure. And I think if not for it being day 32 of what was supposed to be a 31, he probably would have loved to stay in Detroit. But at that point, I think he was ready to just
he's ready to get home. Get home, put his head down, work on comics, and not talk to anybody for a little while right now. So did you do mostly comic stores and things like that? Is that what you were doing?
Yeah, so me and Matt both started out like working in shops and stuff, and so that's always been a big part of our sort of ethos. As far as like once we finish doing the fun part, which is making the work, the other part of the work is reaching out to shops and going there and selfishly also too, like we're comic shop nerds, so we like to see how everybody does. We all kind of have the ability to sell the same material, but how do every shop does it differently, and so it was awesome.
That's so cool. This is also cool. I think it's like more of a recent thing too, where for creators to go like on some sort of a tour kind of thing. I know Tony Fleece did this whole like get a tour badge and like poster and all that stuff. I was like, what is going on here? I feel like he's touring with a band or something like that. But no, you see a lot of authors do like book tours and things like that. But like it's really cool to see the creators nowadays getting into shops and doing that. And my buddy is the godfather of my daughter is a LCS owner, my LCS owner, and he loves just having anybody in there just sitting there signing autographs and saying hi to customers and things like that, because he gets that, I don't know, it breaks that barrier between you guys being like above everybody else, if that makes any sense.
Which is so goofy too for like comic book creators. Like, no, and like it truly is like it's a one hand watching the other thing. Like we can't make books without without a place to, without the direct market, and then like the direct market needs, and so it's like it's super fun. Also, just like you spend all day sitting in a room by yourself, like making these things. You're like, I don't know if this is for anybody. And so you get to go out and like meet the different communities that like these shops have built around them. And like, it's funny, like just like one small anecdote, like we went to a shop, all shout out Final Boss Games in New Jersey. And, I'd met one of the employees at the shop just doing New York Comic Con over there. He said, you got to come to the shop. You got to come to the shop. And I was like, all right, we're going to make it work this time. We're going to come. Yeah. And Matt was like booking it all, and he's like, we're going there at 4:00 on a like Tuesday or something. Like no one's gonna be there. And the owner's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't think we're gonna be able to get through everybody in an hour. And Matt's like, I promise you, we will be. And then it was like, no, we had like a line, wrapping around the whole store when we showed up going out. Like ended up having to stay a half hour after. And it's just like a bunch of hardcore kids in Jersey. We're all like, oh, I heard you guys are into records. Like so. It was awesome.
That's so cool. I mean, it is thing. I mean, you guys, like you mentioned, you worked in comic book shops before. You actually got into the creative side of things. I mean, when did that happen? When did that transition happen for you? Like, when was that the gap between like selling people comics and knowing that you could do this for a living?
For sure. So like I was going to School of Visual Arts at the same time that I was working at Forbidden Planet, which was the shop I worked at with Matt. And we had a bunch of people in our like class, quote unquote,
Hmm.
where it was like me and Matt and Matthew Klein, who's
Hmm.
at Penguin Random House now, and John Petrie, who was at Valiant and is also at Penguin Random House, and Vida Ayala, who great writer, Danny Lore. There's probably even people I'm forgetting, but like me and Matt started working at the same time, and weirdly enough, like Matt's a born and raised New Yorker, and when I moved there, I just so happened to move into an apartment 3 blocks from his apartment, so it's like we would work the same shifts, ride the train home, and like we would just talk story nonstop. And so it was always the intent to be. Sorry, my dog's coming to say hello.
Yeah.
It was always the intent to be a creator. And it was things where Danny Lore told me about Michael Lark needing a background inker, like saw a post on Tumblr, and so that like I did the application for that, and that was my first ever gig. Was my coworker friend of mine being like, "Oh, try out this thing," and it's like, all right, now I'm inking backgrounds for Michael Lark, and so yeah, that's probably my first foyer. But the my senior project at SVA was the first issue or a version of the first issue of mine and Matt's book together, Four Kids Walk into a Bank.
Hmm.
Um, and that was my teacher was David Mazzucchelli. So the joke I always say is that like Four Kids Walk into a Bank was edited by David Mazzucchelli, and then I say that and he says, "Please stop saying that to people."
That's amazing, though.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I mean, now it's getting what, a feature film adaptation, isn't it? So, like, there you go.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's going places.
Yeah, I mean, he'd probably even hate that even more than this. Oh, they're
Yeah,
making a movie.
you're
He's like,
good
comics
point.
are so
Yeah.
much better.
Yes. Good point. Good point.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, that's an exciting thing. And I talked to Matt a little bit about that too towards the end of our episode when Matt was on about that and how cool that is actually to see that your work's going to be hopefully on the big screen at some time. Obviously, it takes time. There's things that happen. There's possibility
Mhm.
that like this they could fizzle out at some point and be like, okay, yep, on to the next thing. I talked to a creator, Jay Bon and Singa. He wrote the recent book, a movie Killer's Game. He wrote the
Mhm.
book that's based on, and he said that was optioned like I don't want to say it for like 30 years. It was some sort of crazy thing that every
Sure.
time the option would end, he'd just like his like agent would just put a check on his desk and he'd be like, "What's this?" He's like, "Oh, the Killer's Game got optioned again." And he's like, "It sucked that it never got onto the screen, but like every couple of years, you just get a check for someone else wanting to make it into a movie."
Yeah,
And he's
yeah.
like, "It
It
sucks that
makes
no one
it.
gets to see it, but I still get paid for it, so it's
Yeah, yeah,
whatever."
yeah. It definitely eases the sting. That's the
Yeah,
to quote Don Draper. That's what the money's for.
exactly,
But
exactly.
the no, yeah, it's the I feel it's like ours got optioned in 2017, and then
Yeah.
it's like the constant thing where my talking to my mom or dad or whatever, they'd be like, "Is it coming?" And I'd be like, "I don't know, man." Like, but ours is being edited right now. And so it's at least at that stage. The
Yeah.
joke me and Matt keep saying too is just that, like, I mean, you see what happens with some movies where they're shot, finished, ready to go, and they get
Yeah.
axed anyways. So it's like until we're sitting in the theater, credits are rolling, still won't fully believe it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I feel like it's the comic book industry, right? You really don't know when it comes out until it's actually on the shelf sometimes. So it doesn't
sure.
really.
Yeah,
FOC, when was that? I don't want to talk about it. Oh, our comic is out? That's awesome.
yeah,
No, it's true though. It really is. I mean, I feel like I'm a close acquaintance now with Adam Steezer, who's Clown in the Cornfield comes out here pretty soon as well. And so like his novel being made into a movie is like finally now he feels like I know it's only been a little bit of time. He's only been like 5 years or so. But like he's like it's finally now. He's but still, even in being at South by Southwest and getting it premiered, he's like until it's actually in theaters, I still don't believe that they're not going to still cancel
yeah, yeah. For
it.
sure. Even though I'm getting like Instagram reel ads, I'm
Yeah,
still
so,
like,
like I don't know, man. There's still a possibility in this world we live in. Tax some
yeah,
sort of
for
tax
sure.
write off or whatever. But yeah, but yeah, you broke. I mean, you broke into the industry mostly illustrating and inking and things like that. But obviously, with You'll Do Bad Things, you're writing this story. Um, was it just your title working with Matthew Rosenberg? Is that what
Yeah,
the
yeah, it's a
that's that?
combination of that and hubris. No, it's a lot of it I could blame Matt as why
Yeah.
I'm writing is the thing where writing to me always seemed weirdly mystifying for a long
Mm,
time. I was kind of like, what is a writer, right? Like, what is like when I'm sitting down to draw, it's a sort of thing where it's like I have a set of tools that I know how to like, you that I know can get production out of me. Like I understand the process of what it means to be a quote unquote artist. Whereas for a writer, I'm like, is that journaling? Is that, doing index cards? Is that just doing the vomit doc and then editing? Is that like, what is the process of being that? And, when me and Matt started working on What's the Furthest Place From Here, our ongoing image series, we would sort of, we knew what the beginning of the story was, we knew what the end was, and then we kind of wanted to leave the middle open to sort of like, how do we get here to here? Then we had signposts that we knew we wanted to hit, but every issue is us, me and him. He comes to my house, or I go to New York City, and we sit down for a week and we just literally would talk out like, here's what happens in every single issue. And then Matt would go and write a script, and at a certain point Matt's kind of like, that's writing, what we're doing there is right. And it was like, oh, okay, so this is, it sort of demystified the process a little bit, where it's like understanding, I now I feel like I have a set of tools in the same way for drawing to get production out of me for writing. Whereas for a long time, I think a lot of people like myself are sort of maybe like scared. It feels almost too, the without restrictions, you can
Mhm.
kind of go in any direction. So you have, you're constricted by no restrictions. But
Mhm.
yeah, placing things on you, and that sort of gave me the itch and bug to write more.
And it's not like, yes, because you've written before. So like Dead Dog's Bite, like that book was but you did both. And so like
Mhm.
this is the thing where you had to like relinquish something. I hate to say the word relinquish, but like as an illustrator, you like to see to put your illustrations out there too. So like you obviously either knew it's a lot of work, so doing both of them is not going to be possible, or you wanted someone else's vision on this too. What was the idea about not doing this all yourself? I mean, I'm guessing timing was an issue.
For sure. I mean, it was a thing where I had the idea for the book and I really wanted to do it, and I really thought I would draw it myself. But I was drawn. I can't draw two books at a time. I'm just not. I'm so slow. um, but so I was drawing Furthest Place, and I was like, oh, I'll get to this at some point. And then I was on my phone on Instagram or something, and it was like a portfolio share day, and Michael Walsh shared Adriano's work, Adriano Tortolici, who's the artist on Bad Things portfolio on his Instagram story. And I was like, oh, like lightning bolt moment, like this is the book, like this is what it's supposed to look like. And it was, it changed a lot of what the book would be. And it was an interesting thing, even in writing for Adriano. Like he was coming off kind of a negative experience when I reached out to him, where he had drawn two issues of a book for a publisher, and then some things happened at that publisher, and so the book got canned, but it was never going to come out. And so he was like, oh, I just like, it's rough to draw like 48 pages, think it's your thing, and then, oh, these can never see the light of
Yep.
day.
Yep.
So a lot of our early relationship was me trying to build trust with him, and so I kind of gave him what I thought was like a layup in the like first 10 pages of the script, where I was like, I'll give you a four wide, like kind of how I would do it, where it's like it's a really quiet moment after a loud moment, and it's all the same shot. You just have to do like of a car from above with like blood coming out of it like an oil spill. And instead he draws it, and he's boom bang, we're inside the car and it's loud and whatever. And so it's like been a really cool learning experience with him, where it's like seeing what my tendencies are as a writer or as even as an artist, and then watching Adriano sort of push and pull those things to his disposition or what he thinks works better. And like the constant conversation in it is really great. And yeah, it's been really illuminating in that sort of way, where it's like I've given him, I'll give him really like for acting scenes, like kind of no direction anymore. I kind of like, here's the dialogue, this is kind of what I'm thinking, but you go. Or if it's like a chase scene or like a really crazy action scene, I kind of like, I think I see it as this, but also you like, it's almost more Marvel style, like, we need it to fit in this pages or whatever. And then we'll get in, I do a bunch of weirdo formalist stuff, so that gets really me being like, okay, so we're gonna do this, and it's really specific, and it's we'll see. So it's yeah.
It's funny. And I also laugh that you don't write that much. You're more of an illustrator, and then your first like big comic like this, obviously you said your Dark Horse book, but like one that you stepped away just to someone else illustrate is about a writer, which is like a regular like a trope that I see like so much in like with like prose novels nowadays, where it's like this writer in this horror novel is on an excluded out in the woods somewhere writing a book, and I'm like, well, why does writers write about writers so much? And I was like, well, maybe it's because they write about what they know, and they write like they obviously know a lot about writing because they're writing. But you just did that, right? Right in this book, you have a guy who writes books, and you're gonna write about a writer even though you haven't had a huge history of writing. It's a it's a risk.
Yeah, for sure. It does end up, it's a core tenet of what the story ends up
Yeah.
where it's so it'll be um yeah, it was funny. The Hassan, the letterer on the book, when I reached out to him about working on, he's like, "Oh, we could do some like really cool ancillary stuff in the back where you like write a bunch of prose like as the
Yeah.
character in these things." And I was like, "Yeah, we ain't doing that, bro. Like, I can write a script, but I can't write prose. Like, that is not my strong
No,
suit."
that's not where you're going. Yeah, like it's like I'm a comic book writer. I'm not.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's get into this. So you're not ready for your Great American Novel. You're not ready for that.
yeah. No, we'll do that on the second one, right? Like, that's yeah. I did one. Now we can. Now I'll bang that out. It'll be writing's not that hard. I'm kidding.
Yes. Well, it's funny too because I was talking to someone the other day. I'm reading The Stand from
Mhm,
Stephen King. There's a new anthology coming out that's a bunch of stories from other authors that are writing about stories that happen within The Stand. And I
mhm.
had never read The Stand. I saw the TV show that came out with Whoopi Goldberg a couple of years ago and James Marsden. But I was like, I'll read the book. This is great. I'm like, 1,200 pages, man. Like, how the hell do you write that much? Like, how much story do you need to
Yeah,
have that? And I'm thinking, like, obviously, a graphic novel or something like that would be shorter because some of the descriptions that you're doing, you don't actually have to describe. You let the illustrator obviously take that and do that. Like, you don't have to be like they're wearing a jeans and a t-shirt. Like, obviously, you're drawing
yeah,
it
yeah.
instead of writing it. But I'm still like, Jesus, I don't know how like someone could sit there and write. I would get bored about six halfway through, being like, okay, I need another story. I need to write. I can't write this anymore. Like, I
Yeah,
can't. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just crazy.
That was me listening to the It audiobook and being like, holy shit, bro, I've listened to 22 hours of this and we got somehow 40 more to go.
Yeah, it's like how am I supposed to like quit my what is Jerry Seinfeld or sorry George Costanza on Seinfeld? He's counting all of his coins, and she's like, "Yeah, I'll give you some rolls to roll these coins up." And he's like, "What do you want me to do? Quit my job?" It's the same thing sometimes. I feel like, oh, I read The Stand. What do you want me to do? Quit my job? No.
Yeah, yeah.
It's cool though. I think I'm a big fan of your artwork, and so I'm always a fan of seeing what the other side of comic creation can do. And I think you nailed it. I have to me, it's sometimes where I'm like, hey, stick to writing or stick to drawing. But no, it was very well done, and I think that which is cool because I feel like if I didn't know it was you, I wouldn't have picked out being like, oh, I've seen most of this person's illustrations. But there is that finesse to it that a writer an illustrator has when they write a book. It's a little different, and I think you kind of understand where things are going potentially as an illustrator. Like you maybe how things would be laid out, maybe a little bit differently than someone who solely writes, and that's pretty cool. And I think you did that with this thing. But I tell you right now, I love your illustrations, but this book is phenomenally beautiful. Andre, that it's just. I'm glad that it wasn't you, if that makes any
No, no, for sure.
sense.
No, yeah, no offense taken. 100%. It's funny with the book too. Like I always intended it to sort of be like a giallo pastiche. Like we're doing that. We're doing
Mhm.
70s Italian horror.
Yeah.
But if it was gonna be me, like I probably couldn't have called it that. And then so like Adriano, what he's bringing into it with his inks being like, very from the Italian
Mhm.
school of like how they approach cartooning. Uh, oh, I just bought a bunch of his books at Flying Colors. Shout out. Why am I blanking on the artist's name? Oh, well, okay, a bunch of great Italian, Sergio Topi,
Okay.
or like, um, Alberto, I guess he's Argentinian, but Alberto Breccia, and these other ones where it's like lush inks, brushwork, we're going with textures, these things,
Yeah.
but then the colors that Adriano brings, where it's like we're doing these sort of 2, 3 color scenes that are kind of evocative of sort of what Richmond Lewis was doing on Batman Year One, or like even the Argento films that we're trying to kind of come from, and like yeah, like the book wouldn't be I feel like it's a right distillation of like, yeah, Giallo as a comic book, where it's like without Adriano, it just would have been another horror comic book.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it adds that because I do believe one of my favorite things. I love reading and viewing and looking at and immersing myself in a comic. But one of my biggest things, I love how it's a team, and there
Mm-hmm.
is these excellent people who can do both things so perfectly well that it's just like, and even then there's the people who are like even better talented who letter the thing themselves too, and it's like, how the hell do you do that? First of all, but then like share some talent with the rest of us. No, but this is something to do with two separate sets of eyes in minds and visions and all that stuff. Like obviously, you guys have to come together and say this is what we want to do, but like having that second pair of eyes to be able to just say this is what I visually see this look like, I think just adds so much more depth to a comic book. And I think that's just so cool about these books is like that I don't would have expected that coming from this comic. Like on the front cover, I don't know if I would have been like opening the pages up and I was just like, wow, like this is amazing. Again, I love your illustration, so don't like that's not even that. But
No, it's yeah, no, don't worry.
what was done with this book was phenomenally beautiful, and I think it's just again, to me, it's different too. It's just this different side of comics that I see right now in horror comics right now as it is, and I think that the colors, everything to do with it was just so gorgeous. It continues on for issues 2 and 3 that I have. It's just again, you want to look at it. You want to open the book and re-look at the comic book again, and just don't forget the word bubbles. Just look at the
Yeah, you
actual
just ignore those. Yeah,
illustrations.
just look at
Yeah,
the.
no one cares about that. No,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
you're getting that now. You're getting the opposite side of that. People only want to
yeah.
look at the art of a comic book. It's just gorgeous. It's a beautiful comic book, and I think that in this world we live in with horror comic books are very, 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 very prevalent. That having something that stands out a little bit different in American comics is beautiful, and I think that style does that.
Interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously, I think Adriano, I think the world of Adriano. I mean,
Yeah.
but our approach to is sort of too, even when like the this is maybe not something that people are going to necessarily notice, but even in the production of the book, we're thinking about things like that. Like we did the book in singles, sort of like self cover, so it feels kind of cheap. It feels kind of like very raggedy. I feel like that, like there was a time when I was like, "Ooh, we should maybe do this on newsprint," but then we scrapped that idea because now newsprint sort of feels more almost like deluxe, even
Yeah.
though it should feel like a throwback. So we're like, no, we'll do this. But then when we get to the collection, like there's a thing where, we're pricing it and all these things now, but the full collection, like I want to do painted edges on the
Mhm.
paper so that it'll be green or yellow. I haven't decided like whatever one's going to be, not the most, but like truly try and make the trade feel like um it's I don't want to say art object because that sounds like we're trying to heighten it, but it's more
Yeah.
trying to be not just like your stock standard image tray, but it's a thing where it's like, no, this is, and not too deluxe. It's like this weird middle ground where it's like it's still cheap because it's comic books, right? Like it's
Yeah.
still, or inexpensive because it's the trade, but we've done enough where we're trying to bring in a production value of it that feels of a mind with what we're kind of doing. So I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's cool. It's a cool thing that you can do to create your own, project like this too. It's like you have a little bit of freedom. Obviously, Image has a little bit of say too in promotion and marketing and all that stuff too. But like, there's this different side of things that you get to do with the create your own project. If you just got hired to do Daredevil, that's going to come out in a simple trade. That's the same looking trade for everything. It's just the way it is, which is fine until it's extremely, extremely, extremely popular, and then they're like, oh, now we're gonna do something special with this book.
Yeah, yeah.
No, but this gives you the ability to do that. It's really cool. It's a 4 issue series, right?
Six.
6 issue series. Why did I say only 4 issue? Maybe it's because maybe there's only solicited for 4 issues so far. I don't know.
Yeah, I think the fifth
It's
solicit maybe came out literally today.
and
Like,
with distribution, you know how it is right now.
yeah, for sure.
It's pretty crazy how if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
figure
yeah.
that out. I literally was like, I got a solicit for a book. Was it Uncanny Valley? From Tony Fleece, and then
Hmm.
like I was like, I have it in my hand. I literally had the book in my hand, and I was getting an email from Boom being like, "That comes out this week." I'm like, "How the hell do I have it in my hand?" And the
Right.
LCS owner was like, there was a whole thing between like Diamond, and it gets sent by Diamond, and then the actual solicitation through Penguin Random House was a different one, and they're resoliciting because some people didn't get it or something like that. And I'm like, "Oh, okay," but I'm like. Tony's out there like being like, buy my book this week. I'm like, I have it. How did I get it so far? Like nothing special. I went to the
Yeah, yeah.
LCS and bought it. It was the weirdest thing. But yeah, it's a weird. And then obviously Lunar distributes Image. So that's been a little bit smoother going on over there. So those things have been coming out. But yeah, when this episode drops, which will be Wednesday, the second issue is coming out to hit people, and I'm so pumped for people to actually like get to read more of this series because it's just so much fun. Do you? I mean, we've talked a little bit about it, in different conversation series. Do you approach like as you start? Did you like write this all in say a week, but like in a time frame and get it kind of like done? Because like you said, you're working on two comics at the same time, or was this like write an issue, work on some Furthest Place From Here, write an issue, that kind of thing? How did you fit this into your schedule?
So initially, it was a thing where I wrote the first issue. I wrote the first 10 pages as just like a pitch because we didn't know if anybody was going to want it, and so it was
Mhm.
like I had enough to be able to pay Adriana for the pitch. And then we took that to Image, and they said, "Yep." And so then from there, I finished writing the first issue, and I knew what each couple of issues was supposed to be. Like I knew what the end was, and I knew where how we were going to get there. But in working on the first issue, Adriano was bringing so many different things to what I had written that I didn't want to get too far out ahead because he was changing things in a good way that like sort of changed and informed different parts of it. So for the first 3 issues, I sort of would just write a script as Adriano was finishing the prior issue, and then by issue 3, we had kind of worked out our like, okay, I understand what our back and forth is going to be. And from there, I went and sort of just wrote 4 or 5. And I'm wrapping up the script on 6 right now, and that should have been done a month ago, but I was on the road for a month, and I had other stuff going on too. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so initially it was a sort of thing of like a feeling out period of like, what's he going to respond to? What are these things? And then once that relationship felt um, more or less sort of figured out, it was kind of like, okay, I can get out. And he sort of likes to, I think, having a lot of pages in front of him.
Mhm.
He has a thing where I've learned he really enjoys he doesn't like starting and stopping. Like he really likes to get into a flow state of like, okay, I'm going to do as much storytelling as I can. Then we'll switch to pencils. Then we'll switch to inks, as opposed to like some people like to do like, okay, today I'm going to pencil ink. I'm going to thumb, pencil, and ink a page
Yeah.
today. And like,
Yeah.
so for him, he kind of likes to, you know, do each part of the process as a step, which is, it's good because I feel like you get to see, in that version, you get to see a lot of the book in totality before you really are.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, we got to switch these things and do this.
Mhm. That's really cool, and it's cool to hear the different side of how it was created. And obviously, like I said, I had to harp on it, but you're an illustrator too, so seeing how someone else works differently than you on a project that you're working on is pretty cool in that
Yeah,
sense,
yeah,
as well. But like, so furthest place from here, Matthew had alluded to the idea that it is coming to an end sometime in the future.
yeah. We're on issue. I'm finishing up drawing issue 22, and then we're going to either 30 or 31. And the
Mm.
point is that is when we write 30, it's going to be oversized, and it's going to be like one of those things where it's like, all right, we're at page 60. Can we split here, or
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
do we need to just 30 or 31 is just based on like, is there a natural sort of ending here to
Mhm.
then like make this make sense as a, because it's also one of those things where it's like, man, are we going to really do the last issue perfect bound? Like we
Yeah.
need to maybe break it up. But yeah, so it's coming around there, but it's good because it's when we started the book, we thought, maybe we get one volume. So we had a
Yeah.
version of it that was that, and then we had the version that was the full thing, and we're like, that's 3 trades. And then in working on it, we were like, oh, it's 6. And so it's this funny thing where it's like, we got to the end of what is volume 3, and
Mhm.
we're kind of like, is volume 4 going to be the last one? We're like, oh, we haven't earned the end yet. Like we
Mhm.
need to go out and earn that. And so that like informed. I don't know. That one's been a really interesting thing because like 4 Kids, when we did that, it was really like tight. Like we were doing a heist, and so we had to have things planned, and everything was seated, and all these different things. And then with Furthest Place, like I said, like we knew exactly where we were going in the things, but like things crop up as you're. I think it's a George R. R. Martin quote where it's like you're either a gardener or you're a something else, and the something else is the people who plan everything out, and the gardeners are the ones who like plant little seeds and see what comes up.
Mhm.
And Furthest Place is very much sort of tending a garden, whereas Bad Things and 4 Kids and Dead Dogs are more, um, you know, uh, I don't know, making a building or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, 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 yeah. I get that, I get that. But I mean, obviously, you mentioned like this is coming to an end. This has been a crazy long journey that started. Obviously, and you've got way more out of it than you expected to get out of it. Are you ready to draw something else now, or is it like? I know
It's
you've been
funny.
doing
It's
covers and things like that too, but I'm
Yeah,
just saying,
yeah.
like, yeah,
The It'll be interesting. It's a funny. You go and you look at the first issue, and then if you look at the issue I'm on now, and it's like the art looks like 2 different artists. I
yeah,
feel like to a degree, and like that's just a natural part of being on something for so long, and also like I feel like that's just kind of the artist I am. Where it's like I feel like I don't have a crystallized vision of what it is I'm trying to do. It's sort of um or like as far as like some people lock into it. Like Chris Samney is one of the best we've ever had, but he's been Samney now for like geez, what, 20, when did he start on Daredevil? That was like
hmm
2012.
hmm
So it's like he's been doing it now for where it's like he's just got this thing where it's like for me, I'm still figuring it out. Um, but it's yeah, no, it's good. I'm excited for the next thing I'm doing. It's gonna be I know what it is, and it's gonna be a lot. It's it's a very not probably what people would expect me to do. So we'll
That's
see.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's funny how you mentioned that like that you changed throughout. I killing myself for not remembering who said this, but there was a person who said that when they actually released the trade, the person went back, the illustrator went back and actually re illustrated technically like kind of like the first issue
Mhm.
because it was so drastically different from issue 1 to issue 5 in his mind that he's like, I can't put this in a trade this way. Like
Yeah.
single issues is one thing because it's like it gives a gap of time, but when someone's like busting through a trade and they're like who was the guy who did the first issue and who was the guy who did the last issue because they look very similar but they're not the
Yeah.
same and so he was like it wasn't like maybe he just re-inked it, maybe that's what it was, I forget what it was, but it was like something along those lines where he like touched up on the first issue because he's like you'll notice it if you actually see it, and I'm like now I can't
Yeah.
remember who it was. I
I
want to say it
mean,
might have been Kyle
Jim
Starks,
Jim
but I'm
Lee
not sure.
wanted to do it for Hush issue
Yeah,
1. I remember he talks about, and then he didn't, but he was like, "Oh, I wanted to go and do it." And then there's varying, like all comic book artists are insane. We're all
yeah,
crazy people. Like the like Chester Brown, who's more in like the Drawn and Quarterly. sort of lit
Yep.
side of comics, like he redrew the entirety of Ed the Happy Clown like 3 times, which is just like it was good the first time, Chester.
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly. Well, that goes to my whole like I'm a graphic designer by trade. I design beer can labels for a brewery, and I find myself where I'm like, there's every once in a while I want to go back and touch on a previous label, like one of our like core brands. I'm always like, oh, it'll be nice to refresh that or whatever. And then I'm like, no, but I want to do something different. I want to do something new. Like my mind is like, I've done that. I did that over. I can move
yeah,
past that now. I don't need to touch that anymore. And then when they're like, hey, we need a new packaging. It's a taller can or a shorter can. I'm like, oh, fun. I get to just shrink down artwork that I've done before. This is amazing. And so like I can see like wanting to perfect your thing. And obviously, like I said, that would be a little different. If you in your mind think it's so drastically different from issue 1 to issue 5 or 6, then yeah, I can understand going back and like I want to re-ink this or recolor it or whatever it may be because you want it to look cohesive. But to me, I'm like I would just want to work on the next thing, and
yeah.
I don't know. That's just the way my mind works. I like my attention span is just like I need to do something more creative. I don't know. But when you've now drawn, illustrated, you created these projects and so on and so forth. You've now worked on a comic book series without Matthew Rosenberg. Are you done now? You guys quit each other? This is it?
Yeah, we just did 31 days in the
Done.
car, and
This is
as
it.
I
No.
said, yeah,
I mean, you guys, so far, if I say that, but in the same sense, you promoted these books side by side. They came out at the
yeah,
same time. You had the ash cans. There was a flip ash can kind of thing that you did store signings together. So it's not like you are separated from each other, but it's kind of funny. You're obviously got Furthest Place From Here to finish, and so on. Are you looking to write again? Are you looking to draw again? Obviously, you're still in the middle of this. You'll do
yeah.
that thing. So, but like, and so I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But like, has this experience of doing this new book with someone else as the illustrator pushed you one way or the other, or are you just like, I want to make cool comics?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely given me the confidence, I think, to write more in a way that like Bad Things was definitely sort of like, okay, like we're gonna try.
Mhm.
But it is a thing where it's like, maybe it doesn't comes out and people are like, you're real bad at this. Stick to drawing. I'd be like, okay. But no, the response to it's been great. And so like there's other stuff that I am going to be a writer on with other artists that's I'm already actively working on. I'd love to do another book with Adriano. Um, but then also to like just being a pure cartoonist or
Yeah.
comic book artist with Matt, like me and Matt are writing a book together with that Josh Hickson's going to draw.
Mhm.
But then also a book that I'm going to draw with Matt, and there's one other writer I'm working with who I'm going to draw some stuff for, who I've worked with a little bit. It's James Time. I've literally worked with like 3 writers, so it's not hard to figure out. But it's
Like someone could
um,
just Google that. Who has Tyler
yeah,
work for?
it's
No.
Matt, James, and Paul.
Yeah.
Uh, that's it. But
Sounds like the Bible.
yeah, sure. But yeah, me
You're
and
like, I
James are good.
cannot
But
work with you unless you have some sort of biblical name.
yeah,
It's actually it's in my contract now. That's
yeah,
pretty cool. Yeah,
but
I mean, I'm guessing it has to do with schedule nowadays too. I mean,
yeah,
you hear over and over and over again illustrators who are like you mentioned, it's really hard for you to work on more than one project. So you have like Furthest Place From Here doing that, and then you'll do a variant cover here or there, or like you can illustrate a couple pages for an anthology or a book or something like that. But like you're not like sinking yourself into a whole new project, and it's probably there's people. I mean, I've talked to Kyle Stark so many times. Kyle's coming back on again. I talked to Scotty Young. These people who were like, I would wish I could just illustrate everything I do. It's just not possible. I've got all
yeah,
of these stories that I would love to tell, and I just can't tell them all as the illustrator because there's just no time, and my
yeah,
arms aren't strong enough. My hands not, I get cramped up and stuff like that. Like
yeah.
it's just one of those things. And so like telling these stories and getting these things out there, and if you can figure your schedule out to it's like, okay, I'm going to write this, I'm going to draw this, I'm going to do that, then you could probably release more than a single issue or a month or something like that.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it is, and they're very different types of labor.
Mm.
Like obviously, writing is way more. I think it's way more mentally taxing than drawing. Drawing is much more physically taxing.
Yes, yes.
Writing, I'll do 4 hours, and sometimes I get nothing. Sometimes I get 10 pages.
Yes.
And then drawing, it's sort of like, no, I kind of know like what 8 hours is going to get
Mm.
me, kind of every single time. Sometimes things are more detailed, whatever, but um it is a funny thing. And so it's like there is things where it's like, okay, I can go and do an 8 hour shift or 10 hour shift of drawing, and then 2 hours, have dinner or whatever, and then 2 hours at
Yeah.
night. And they're like, all right, cool. I look at like sort of Lemire and Zdarsky as
Yeah.
sort of good career models. Maybe I'm sort of looking at where it's a thing where I think they both have their projects that is them, writing and illustrating themselves.
Yeah.
And I probably won't do that. Next time I do that, who knows? But and that sort of feels like my map book, and then they have their other sort of licensed stuff that
Yeah.
they work on or books that they want to tell, and doing that writing is, yeah, they kind of go off and do that, and that feels like a good. Yeah, although learned, I don't know how true it is, but I learned what Lemire does, and I'm like, I can't do it like that. Like that scheduling doesn't make sense
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's great. It's I wrote on James's new series, Exquisite Corpses, with Michael
Yeah.
Lark, and so that was a really, being in the writers' room with people like James and Che Grayson and Pornsak, Pinchon Choate, and like learning from them how to be in the room and being like, oh, I can hang, I can do
Yeah.
this. Like it's sort of things where it gives you the confidence a little bit too to like be like, okay, like because it's when I put out Dead Dogs, I, I wrote, drew, colored, lettered, I did the whole thing except
Yeah.
for edit it and did the design even. And it was a thing where I called Matt like the night before it came out. I was like, man, if this thing sucks, like it's just my fault. Like I
Yeah, it's
can't
like, I can't
blame
blame
this on
anybody
anybody.
else.
Yeah. And I was like, why didn't you tell me like the anxiety that's involved with being a writer and like doing these things where it's like it almost feels like as an artist like that don't have the same level of pressure about it. And then and with Bad Things, like there was maybe still some of that anxiety, but it was helped by the fact that I had a partner in Adriano and
Yeah.
Hassan and the backing of Tiny Onion's editorial team of
Yeah.
Eric Harburn and Steve Fox. So
It's now you have someone to blame. So
yeah,
thanks,
exactly. And
Adriana.
I got a bunch of people to be like, look at this horrible thing we all made together.
This is amazing. And everybody else will be like, well, Tyler, you don't write that often, so it's probably your fault. The other guys are pretty good, so I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, for
It's
sure.
a yeah, it's crazy, and I love that collaboration. And there's not this hostility either. Like you mentioned, being in the room with Tiny and those people, like that you could see in a world, people on the fringe of comics could see like when a person who's dedicated to illustrating, doing a bunch of variant covers, been illustrating books for a while, slides into their writing seat, that they could have like an animosity towards them because like, hey, you're infringing on my side of things in this industry. And it's not like that. It's a lot of that crossover is really good. You don't see the opposite happen that often because it's usually the people who go. The number of times I've been told on the podcast, I started writing comic books because I tried to draw and I suck. And there's that. So there's more of that than there is the opposite side of this, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, you see that, and it's like it's cool little world collaboration world that we live in comics, and seeing these things and seeing your ability to do it, and you did it well. And not not that you need my approval on that, but I
No,
do
I
think
do,
that you'll
Justin.
do
I
bad
do. I
things.
need your, I need everybody's approval. I do.
You'll do bad things is excellent, and I think it's going to continue on to be a great comic, and I'm pretty excited for people to read it who haven't. If you haven't read it, you need to go get it. It's actually phenomenal. It's also a slightly smaller title than Matthew Rosenberg's book,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's
Mine are always a couple words shorter.
you gotta do that. You gotta title it all a little bit off. Matthew's like, that's too long. You
Yeah, yeah.
or the Steve Fox came to you and said, yeah, you gotta edit that down.
You got to edit
He's
these things
editing.
down.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a cool and I got issue 1 right here. Actually, it's right here. You'll do bad things. It's an awesome comic book. It's a comic that works well too with what people like right now with true crime and those kind of things as well too. I think that's a thing to get out there and explain to people. I'll kind of explain it at the top of the episode when I do my intro of what it is. But like people wonder, like it's like a if you're not into comics, you might be into this too because of the fact that it's kind of a true crime-esque side of things as well. So that's pretty cool. And then I got this book here too. I don't know what this one is.
I don't know. We're taking everyone to the
Oh, look at
bank.
this. There you go.
Oh, Nick's Corpse. You got
There's
the
ash
ash
can.
can of that too.
Uh, and then I found this at the
I feel like
store
it's
the other
Furthest
day.
Place behind you too.
Oh, there's a furthest place here. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's issue two back there. Yeah, awesome.
I kind of slid it over there because it's actually over here is issue 3. I don't know if you can see it.
Oh
It's
yeah, I
right
can
here.
see it
It's
right
issue
there.
3. I found this in the dollar bin at the other day.
Nice.
I just got it
What's
because I'm like,
who even published it?
I don't even know. IDW.
Oh,
It's an
okay.
IDW, like a weird IDW logo, like a I don't know. I guess there was a double edition where it had McCain as the back, like a flip over was McCain. I was like, I don't know, I just wanted it.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but yeah, so it's I can't wait for people to read it. I can't. I don't know how to say anything else about it. That's amazing. I'm super excited that you're into writing comics more now, and I'm looking forward to the next thing. I'm looking forward to the ending of what's the furthest place from here. Not because I want it to end, but I'm also like it's just one of those things where I'm like living in such a world of miniseries and maxi
Hmm.
series that like 30 issues is a lot
Yeah,
to be
yeah.
like, oh yeah, I can commit to that. And every week you're like, oh god damn it. I will say the best part about it is the fact that they've been like big issues over basically pretty much every issue, and they're only $3.99. So
Oh
you
yeah,
guys are
yeah.
losing money on it, but
Oh yeah. Hemorrhaging. We're not good business people, me and Matt. Like,
I mean, Todd McFarlane came out recently and just raised the price of Spawn from
yeah,
$2.99 to $3.99 now. So I mean, like, I bet I'm not going to say this because you probably are going to charge more for it, but your final issue is probably going to be $3.99. It's gonna be like
no,
perfect
it'll be the
balance.
same price. Yeah, it'll be. I
Like
think
we're going to
whatever.
do this
Yeah,
for $2.99.
yeah.
We're going to lose even
Yeah,
more
we're gonna go
money on
less.
it.
We're gonna go down.
Go down on it.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty awesome. I'm super excited. I'm super pumped for you and everything that you're doing. And again, what's the first place from here is still going. So check those out. The trades are, what trade do you want again? Three?
Well, Volume 4 just came out in
Yes.
February, and then so yeah, we're halfway through drawing and making Volume 5. So Volume 5 will be 20, 21, 22, 23,
Yeah.
24, 25.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're on 22, going to 25. That's Volume 5, and then that's the penultimate one before we get to the big show.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's so awesome. And then there'll be 6 issues of You'll Do Bad Things with issue 2 hitting right now. But hopefully it's not there because hopefully people bought it. But if not, ask your LCS like, hey, is there a copy I can get?
Yeah. And
I
if you
don't
missed
know
it,
if Lunar has distribution level of it still, but I'm not.
I
I
don't
can't tell.
know. Yeah, I don't know
I don't have
if it's
access to
sold at
that
the
information.
distributor yet, but there is a second print of issue 1 out also on that day, so we have that and that. And if
Okay, there you go.
so they
Perfect.
should be out hopefully.
Yes, they should be. Yeah, they're not going to a second printing. I don't know with the world we live in today with the whole like oh, we are sold out. We have
Oh
limited copies. All this thing.
yeah,
I'm like, I don't know how that works, man.
yeah, yeah,
I forget like it was a Berserker. There was like second printing was like way more valuable than first one because they only printed like 50 copies of the second one, thinking that they didn't need that many, and then they ended up needing like 7 prints of it or something like that. It was some
yeah.
weird thing.
It was a
Uh,
weird thing from that era too of like pandemic
yeah.
fire, where like so many of those people treated second prints and third prints or whatever as almost like first print but different variant covers. Where it
Yes.
was a thing where I was like, oh, this is a whole world I didn't even know about.
Well, that was the argument we always have at the LCS about like, oh, second printing of the first appearance of Miles Morales. I'm like, that's not though. That's
That's
not
the
even close
second.
because the first printing is
Yeah,
and then it goes on. The Key Comic Collector has like a second cameo or something like that. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense how
that's
that
not any.
works. That does not whatever.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
it's the
I really
fifth
liked.
cameo of
Yeah, I really liked. And this is not an element as a shot. It truly, but
no.
Rob Liefeld celebrating 33 years of Youngblood, where I'm
Hmm.
like, I didn't know 33. Like, I love that he's just like, yeah, fuck it, 33 years.
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, 3 and 3. That's cool, I guess, man. Like,
My thought of that is like, I don't know, maybe he wanted to do 35. He's like, I don't know, will I be around like in comics anymore in 35? Like, so let's just do 33 years. Let's do this
go
now.
through
And it's like
33. Yeah, I love it.
I'm in the news a lot right now. Like a lot of people are talking about me, so this is probably the time to capitalize on me doing this right now. But no, it's great. It's I saw that on the shelf the other day. I was like, I can't believe it's been that long too. It's crazy.
Yeah,
33
yeah,
years or not. It's been a long time, and it's pretty crazy how long it's been. I mean, my 39th birthday is coming up right here, and I just feel like it's time's flying. You mentioned the pandemic, and I felt like it was yesterday, and it's really been
oh
like
yeah.
5 years. It's insane.
I know
Uh,
it's yeah. Time has been both elongated and shortened in a way that no longer makes
exactly.
sense.
But yeah, You'll Do Bad Things. Second printing, first issue 1 you mentioned is out, and then as well the same day issue 2. So grab both those issues, and then tell your local comic book shop you want 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. And then yeah, jump on what's the furthest place from here. Most comic shops should have volume 1. I know what my comic book shop keeps it in stock because it's one of their top selling books right there next to Something's Killing the Children and stuff like that. So that's the one they keep in stock for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty great. He hates when he puts it on the poll list every week though because of how long the title is. So just say that much.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously it's how long it is because you keep on just calling we call it Furthest Place, but you
yeah,
also do
yeah.
it bad things. You cut the first 2 weeks words off of You'll Do Bad
Oh
Things,
yeah,
which is
yeah. I
bad
try to
things
shorten
too.
everything.
Yeah.
Even Dead Dogs Bite, I just call Dead Dogs. It's the thing where everything I try to get to two. The one we're doing. Sorry for swearing. My
No,
bad.
you're good.
The one me and Matt are doing with Josh Hickson.
Yeah.
Matt tried to put a comma in it, and I was like, no, dude, we can't. Like, you can't.
No, you can't do it. First, I just had this discussion with, I forget, I was at a Comic Con a couple weeks ago, and I was having this discussion because Alex Cormack and Anthony Cleveland just came out with their book at Mad Cave that was buried long ago. And it screws up with like SEO algorithms on
Yep.
the internet too. I'm like, not only is it probably too long to have a comma in there, Matt, but it's like when you put a comma in there, it becomes 2 keywords instead of 1 keyword. Like You'll Do
Hmm.
Bad Things is 1 thing. if you did you'll do that things, comma, something else, it would be two different things. And I'm like, you can't, no, stop doing the comma thing. But knowing Matt, it's probably just a really long sentence that he
It's
needed
just a
for the
really long,
comma,
just a run-on
for
sentence.
grammatical reasons. But,
Yeah.
but I'm so glad, like I said, Tyler, I'm glad you were able to come on and chat comics, and you'll do bad things and so much more. We'll look forward to everything that's coming out in the future. But people, for now, grab what Matt has, I'm sorry, Matt Tyler has on the shelf right now, and Matt technically with
grab Matt stuff too.
That stuff too.
I'm on most of them. So.
Yes, exactly. You might as well at this point. No. But yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time out and doing this, and good luck with the rest of the stuff, and good luck with more issue releases of this, and finishing up what's the furthest place from here. I know you got a lot of work ahead of you.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Justin.